There's a story set in the land where the Hindu gods reign. And in there was a certain place that was inhabited mostly by the priestly caste of Brahmins, who of course have the task of keeping the populace in a state of devotion. But amongst them was one who was called Guha. And Guha was a rebel, considered to be completely heretic and a bad influence on all the youth of that place, because he hunted animals, he drank wine, he would not follow any of the rituals dictated by the faith of the time. So these Brahmins got together and decided that they would have to try to change Guha. He could not continue to be a bad influence on the youth. So they decided to take a statue, a stone statue of Shiva, and take it into the forest where Guha lived, so that they could set it up and undertake their rituals in an attempt to bring Guha back into the fold. So they set up their stone statue under a magnificent walnut tree. And every day they came and bathed it in milk, and they put garlands around its neck in an attempt to demonstrate to Guha how things should be done. Devotion, devotion, devotion. But Guha just pooh-poohed all of this. He would have nothing to do with it. But every day after he came back from the hunt, he would see them and he would say, "What are you doing? What all that cacophony sound? What?" And he would kind of sneer at them, but they would just chant louder to try to bring him around. But one day, as Guha was passing and the chanting was particularly loud and all that was going on, that Guha came by and he kicked the statue of Shiva. Well, while everyone was being totally affronted, Guha thought this felt so good he went and kicked it again. So there was a great goings on about this. The Brahmins were totally affronted. But Guha went about with his deer on his back to cook his dinner, and he just relished the kick that he gave to the god. So he took it upon himself that after that every day he was going to go there and kick that thing. So he made a point that every day after he'd been hunting in the forest, he would come by and give the statue a big kick. And even though it hurt his toe, and when he went back by his little fire where he was cooking his deer legs, he had to rub his toe. He relished even rubbing his toe because of the pain that he had caused. And this went on day after day, and the Brahmins, of course, just got more and more affronted by what he was doing, and chanted even louder. But of course, to no avail. And when they faced Guha and told him that he had to change his ways, he said, you God, you're worshipping a statue like that. He said, my God is the trees and the cosmos and the heavens and the animals. I have no boundaries. I follow my heart. And this is, of course, exactly what he did. He was totally free. If he was glad, he was glad. If he was not glad, he was not glad. And he drank his wine and he hunted his animals. But then one day the rains came. The rains were very heavy, and it half buried the statue of Shiva. So the Brahmins were not able to come. But Guha he had promised, he went every day to kick the statue, but as he was passing this day, the rains were so heavy and there was so much water around, he couldn't get close enough. But just at that time, a pack of wolves came around, and he had to climb the walnut tree because he couldn't get to the statue, and he was up in the top of the tree looking down thinking, God damn it, I didn't kick that statue. If only I had been right there to give my kick. But up in the tree, of course, he hadn't had any dinner. It was cold and wet, and he was sitting up there in the branch of the tree looking down. So he tried to eat some of the walnuts, and they were too hard. So he thought, oh, just throw them at the statue. So he threw them at the statue. But that wasn't really satisfying enough for him at all. It didn't do. So he sat up in the tree feeling cold and quite miserable and all. He had to wait until the morning before all the wolves went down, and he was able to kick the statue. But then, of course, he caught a chill, and he died. But then, of course, Yama, the king of the demons, could not wait to get his hands on Guha's soul. Punishment. So here he was, poor Guha, the demons under the orders of Yama took and put a rope around Guha's soul and dragged him off down to the netherworlds, and they started to flagellate him and punish him. Look at you, you didn't know how to worship, you abused the gods, and so forth, so you belong with us. But he had to be punished first. But just as the demons were enjoying their flagellation, one of them turned and began to protect Guha. And they said, we have a rebel, we have a traitor in our midst. But just at that moment, the demon who was protecting Guha shape-shifted, and it was found that he was that great shape-shifting God. And he was protecting Guha, and he said that this man, it is not his time to die. I am going to take him directly to Shiva. And of course, Yama said, well, the both of us will punish him then, because no doubt Shiva's going to give him what for too when he gets up there. So the shape-shifting god, who had taken the form of a great white bull, carefully took Guha and took him up into the celestial realms. But of course, Yama had access to these things too. You know how these things go. So he went with a number of his demons up to the celestial realms just to get his 2 bobs worth in about what they could do to punish this fellow who didn't know what devotion was about. And when they got up there, Yama was standing beside, waiting to see how Shiva would punish this malcontent. And Shiva welcomed him and said, it is not his time. He has to go back to earth. Well, Yama was up in arms. To punish him, but did you see what he did to you every day? What do you mean you don't understand, said Shiva. Every day this man gave obeisance to me. Every day he came by and acknowledged me. Even one day when he was up in the tree, he fasted for me. And he even sent down gifts for me. You don't understand. And it is not his time. So, although Yama protested very loudly about this and tried to drag Guha away from Shiva, Shiva instead embraced Guha. And, of course, as things happened, he was released and sent back down into the ordinary world. But when Guha returned, of course, the first thing he did was to embrace the trees and give thanks for existence. But then when he came to the great walnut tree, he saw that underneath the statue of Shiva had been buried under mud, and the Brahmins had abandoned the site and gone back to the city with all that goes on in city life with the masses of people. But then Guha, and that's for you to finish. Tell me, how would you end this story?
Shovel.
Right on. Right on.
And then kicked him.
And you laughed every day.
Nothing like a bit of pain.
So to end this story for us, doesn't make you feel good?
Yes.
Damn good. But what happens? Anyway, we don't have to go into it. You can make it up for yourself. Thank you.